Back in 1836, Houston said to Travis, get some volunteers and go fortify the Alamo. Well, the men came from Texas and from old Tennessee, and they joined up with Travis just to fight for the right to be free. Indians.
Today we're in San Antonio, Texas, and behind me I have the Alamo. The Alamo is an incredibly crucial part of Texas history, American history, and Mexican history. The history of the Alamo actually begins with the Mexican independence, when they gained independence from Spain. And Mexico was actually a republic where they believed in individual freedoms and liberties and religious freedom. And they sought to populate the Texas area called Tejas before. And they had a very liberal immigration policy where they let basically anybody settle on their land. And so by like 10 years or so, there were about like 20,000 Americans living in Texas. And after a while, they elected a new president that was actually a dictator. His name was Santa Anna. And he believed in a centralized Catholic government. And this didn't go over well with the Americans because they brought over their religious beliefs from the United States. So the Americans did what Americans did best, and they had a revolution, and they fought back against Santa Anna. They even were able to expel the Mexicans from San Antonio, and eventually took siege in the Alamo, which was a Catholic missionary church. And the Mexicans had left a ton of cannons and weapons, and Santa Anna decided that he was going to fight back and take the Alamo back, and he did. But both sides have very different accounts of what happened. Santa Anna stated that over 600 Texans died and that 70 Mexicans died. And then the Texans stated that 182 to 200 Texans died and over 1,500 Mexicans had died. After the fight, Santa Anna allowed non-combatants to escape, and they warned the nearby town. This is when famous names like David Bowie and Davy Crockett got involved, and they came back to fight. And the last battle lasted only 18 minutes because they captured Santa Anna. And they forced him to retreat and take all his troops with him, and then this is how the Republic of Texas started. So Texas was actually a country for about 10 years before the U.S. annexed it and it became a U.S. state. And at the heart of all of it is the Alamo. So the Alamo is a very important part of Texas history. So outside of the Alamo, there's a lot of indicators and lines that show where barricades and walls and platforms were. This one in particular is where Davy Crockett and his riflemen defended against Santa Anna's troops. So then we come over here to this road, and these red markings would actually be where the main gate was. So for the last part of our tour, we are at the chapel, and this is where the Texans would have stayed while they were under siege. And I'm just deciding to go and see. Okay, so behind me is the cenotaph, which records the name of every volunteer that helps defend the Alamo. And the ones that are statues are the most important members. So we have Davy Crockett and Travis, which was the leader. Okay, so across the street you'll see these set of buildings that are called the Crockett Block that were built in the 1800s. There used to be Catholic missionaries here and buildings that belonged to the Mexican army, but they were all torn down by a wealthy Texan. And the city today actually intends to make the entire area where the Alamo is and this city block a museum where everybody can go. Okay, so now we made it inside the long barracks, and the long barracks have been turned into a mini museum. So we can see stuff like the soldiers' uniforms and the actual weapons that were used. Okay, so we're back outside of the Alamo, and overall, the Alamo is an incredibly crucial part of Texan history. It is a great source of pride for Texans. part of American history overall because it's the story of how Texas became an American state. And it's also the story of how Mexico lost Texas. So before we finish our tour, I just wanted to show you guys the cannon, and I also wanted to share a few fun facts. So the first one is that whenever the Texans ran out of munitions for the cannons, they would use junk, like crushed up horseshoes. William Travis died early in a battle to a bullet in the head. The cause of death for Dave Crockett actually isn't known. And lastly, the Alamo was used by the Confederate Union during the Civil War. So this is the end of the tour. I hope you guys enjoyed. Have a good day.